Dr. Santelises, I'm so glad that you're joining us to talk about the 2-week mark. It's been 2 weeks since the first day of school. Who could have imagined the tragic and unusual circumstances that we would experience in just the first 2 weeks of school?
No, I don't think anybody could, Sherry. No one anticipates, a young person losing his life, coming out of a first week that by every indication from his teachers and his principal had been a great week. Nobody anticipates a water crisis within the city, even, though we're happy we're coming out of it now. Nobody anticipates that, particularly after, a team really thought hard about how, to really listen to students' feedback, right, on meals. Nobody anticipates that on the first day of school. But I also think it just reflects really where we are right now, and the fact that there's a lot of challenges in our community, in our nation, frankly, in our world. And interestingly enough, I opened my session, welcome back session, with principals, reading the opening from Dickens's Tale of Two Cities. And it really is, in a lot of ways, the best of times and the worst of times. And the worst is some of what I just cited, but the best is some of what I've seen about, being out and about town and hearing about how people rallied, came together. And so it has felt like a best and worst of times kind of experience. So it's not just all bad, but there are challenges, and it has been challenging.
One of those challenges was what happened at Mervo, and I saw you consoling adults, consoling children, talking to people, trying to make them feel better. In the wake of this tragedy, you and the mayor, Mayor Scott too, and these were interactions that no one saw. You weren't doing it for cameras. You were there to truly try to console and help people cope with this. How will we continue to do that for that community?
Yeah, and at first, just let me start off, by saying, Sherry, that the death of Jeremiah Brogdon is just a tragedy. There's a family that lost one of its key members. There are parents who lost their child. There are siblings, right, who lost their brother. And so there is no way to erase the pain that comes with that. I think what we also know, and I just have to say this, that the way that the Mergenthaler community has come together around this was evident from when I stepped foot in the building, but also that entire week. And Principal Lawrence's leadership was showing even before that tragedy. And one of the things that I said to staff that I wanted them to know, and I think it's important for the community to know, is they had an absolutely fantastic first week. Up until Jeremiah's death, up until the point of that horrific accident, this is a school where I had been hearing, wow, this is the best opening we've had in years. And they really had rallied together, and so it is that rallying together that will get them through. I think long term, not just me, but we all have to recognize it's not a 1 day or a 1 week event, that we're going to have to continue to support the staff there, the young people, the families, Principal Lawrence and her team. I think that there's a real need to make sure that we are thinking long term, that the emotional supports, the mental health supports need to not just be there for the first weekend or the second weekend, but they need to be there ongoing. And one of the things I just have to say is our community rallied. That first weekend, it was hard to find related service providers who could come in on the weekend. And we had our community rallied, right? Folks like Roberta's House and the YMCA and Monsi, who said, right, our young people matter, our community matter, and they came out and they supported. And we had our team, people across the district who came, who stayed, who comforted. And I think it's important that we continue to listen to the community at Mervo, and frankly, the Community of Achievement Academy, where the suspect came from. They are mourning as well. They're just mourning in a different way. We have two young people involved in a real tragic affair that nobody wanted to happen, and there were multiple lives impacted. So I do think moving forward, it really is this reaffirmation that it is okay to grieve. It is okay to say, I need help. It is okay to say, can we adjust the way, right, that we're supporting? And to be in a place to hear from the community, to hear from families, to hear from students and staff.
Let's leave on a positive note, because like you mentioned, there are a lot of wonderful things, and even up into what happened on that Friday, an incredible first week back to school.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear from our CEO what you're excited about. What are some of the positive things that are happening?
Well, I think, and again, this gets back to that. Yes, it is worst of times whenever we have those challenges. But we really are, Sherry, I think, in a best of times place as well. I went out and saw schools. I saw, for example, Ms. Blinky's, I believe her name is, at Thomas Johnson's classroom, and it was only like the 5th day of school back. And her young people, I walked into the class at Thomas Johnson, and they had like plastic wine goblets. She was dressed in medieval costume, and they had just finished this amazing feast, and it was the 5th day of school. Young people were excited to be there. I went over to Booker T. Washington yesterday and had an absolutely fabulous conversation with 6th graders around the idea, and one of their vocabulary words as they were reading Bud Not Buddy was transformation, and really had thoughtful debate, dialogue, push around what does transformation mean. And of course we were using Marvel and DC Comics characters to make our point, but they were making the connection to the content, and they were engaging, and just seeing how our principals, our school leaders and staff took very seriously this charge to radically welcome families back. And Gloria Latson-Billings, Dr. Gloria Latson-Billings, we were so honored to have her as part of our school leader return to school. And she said, let's really focus on how can we radically welcome back our families and young people. And I saw that. I saw it from everything from ice cream trucks and open houses with families pouring in, and people saying that they were glad to be back in school, and that this year felt a lot of hope and energy, and that was coming from so many different places in the district. And I think what we have to kind of keep in mind is that in this best of times, worst of times dichotomy that we're in, the best of times is actually what defines the trajectory of the district. It actually defines, right, where we are going. It is not the challenge. The challenge is not the end punctuation, as a former humanities teacher, right? It is not the end punctuation to the sentence. It is all of the teachers who just came out and showed up for young people. And I even said to the community at Mervo, right, in the midst of this tragedy, they did a fantastic job for kids. And they worked. I mean, they had just finished, right, having an ice cream truck, right, to celebrate that first week of school. So I think that the trajectory we're on, we have to continue to speak words of life. We have to continue to reaffirm the potential of our young people. We have to continue to radically welcome, but also make radical connections that are positive, that are supportive, because that's when the teaching and learning happens. Those classrooms that I just referenced, teachers weren't waiting a month to get into content. They were using relationship to bring content alive. And I think that's what our charge is as educators. And in the midst of the challenge, I still say that the end punctuation is an exclamation point, and the end punctuation has yet to be set in a narrative that we are building this year. And I am incredibly proud of how so many schools radically embraced the return of students and families. And that's what's going to carry us through, Sherry.
Absolutely.
Well, I would just say City Schools family, staff, whether you are in central office, whether you are school-based, and our young people, what you do matters. And we are defined by what we do with the potential that we're given. We're defined by how we maximize our lives in service to others. And I just want you to know that part of what I believe is really bubbling in so many of our schools right now is this real embracing of the fact that we are moving. We are moving in positive directions. We see it in the schools that are building those radically warm, connected relationships. There is momentum. There is increased learning occurring. And we want everyone to be part of that. We are not perfect. There are things we are working on, but what defines us is that upward trajectory. And we have large numbers of schools that are tapping into that. And I think that is why our future is bright. Yes, there will be challenges. There will be dark moments. We will mourn and we will continue to support one another. But we are at a pivotal time. And if we ride this wave, I believe the tailwinds that are at our back can propel us forward in ways that we just haven't seen. So I believe in you. I will still say to all the school people, and I always say this, some of my best therapy is being able to go into classrooms where there are teachers who are bringing content alive and young people who are just engaging in a wide variety of experiences. So have a fantastic school year, and remember, the wind is at our back. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be forces that continually try to push us back, but the wind is here. Let's ride that, and let's do it as a community that is City School.